What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is the next in a series of videos designed to help out players getting into Destiny for the very first time. A lot of these tips and strategies are pretty much common knowledge for Destiny veterans, but again, with Forsaken coming out in a few weeks, you're going to have an influx of new players who've never played this game before, and some of this can be pretty confusing when you first get into it. This video is going to focus on the dual leveling system that Destiny has had pretty much since it first came out. In Destiny, you have your character or your player level, as well as your light or your power level. In Destiny 1, this was referred to as your light level. They changed that to power level in Destiny 2. A lot of players like myself still refer to it as your light level, so don't get confused. Light and power is pretty much interchangeable. The difference between your character level and your power level is largely what it determines what you can do, what you can equip, what you can get into. For your character level, and you can see here in the top left portion of your screen, my Warlock is level 30. The current max level in Destiny 2 is level 30. With Forsaken, they're going to bump that up to level 50. And you can think of your character level as pretty much a traditional RPG. As you complete certain objectives, missions, quests, as you defeat enemies, you're being given experience points, and in turn, as you fill up your orange bar, that will lead you to the next level. Once you hit level 30, as you can see, it does continue to fill up, and you're basically awarded engrams, bright engrams, that you can turn in at Eververse when you reach that level. So we can get into that in a different video. For now, though, just think of this as your traditional leveling up in any RPG. The big thing with your character level is it determines which types of weapons and armor you can equip. So if I look at my weapons right now, you'll see that each of these has a power or attack value, but it also too has a level requirement. So all of these three weapons I'm looking at right now require that my character be level 30 to even equip them. If my character were level 29, I would not be able to equip this weapon until I got to level 30. So your character level largely determines the types of weapons and armor that you can equip at any given time. And as you're playing the game, you'll be getting better and better gear that has increasing levels of requirements. So if I look here at the one vendor, you can see that she is selling green uncommon gear, which is not as good as the gear I had equipped. The power level is lower. But you'll also notice too that the level requirement is lower. So these all require my character to be at least level 19 to equip these. So if you're starting the game out, you're going to be progressing from white common gear to that green uncommon gear you just saw. That in turn will lead you to blue rare gear, ultimately getting up to the best gear in the game, which is the purple legendary gear, and the best of the best, the yellow exotic gear. So all of those will have different level requirements. The same thing applies for the armor. Right now I have armor equipped that needs to be level 20, but there's also a number of different pieces here. These require being level 29, for instance. So there's going to be a lot of different level requirements here leading up to ultimately getting to the max level that will let you equip any gear that you have. So that's the big thing with your character level. The other thing with the character level, and if I open up the directory, right now for my Warlock, since I'm pretty well into the story, I have all the different planet locations unlocked. When you first get these unlocked, you'll notice that there is a character level requirement for advancing in some of these story missions. So by and large, though, you'll be fine getting those unlocked. It's pretty natural. As you play the game, you'll level up pretty quickly. So the biggest thing with your character level is which types of gear you can equip, and it's the most simple leveling system in the Destiny game. It's a old school RPG. Get experience, level up your character. On the flip side is your light or your power level. It's easy to rank up your character level. It's not very easy to hit the max power level. The current max power level in Destiny 1 at the time of this video is 405. And you can see here that my Warlock, even though it is the max character level, it is not the max light or power level. Reaching max power level does involve a pretty crazy grind to get to this point. There's a degree of luck in it. You need to get the piece of armor or weapon that you have that is not max level. Those things are pretty much a random number generator to get those. and it's also pretty sequential. So you're not going to get 405 gear or 385 gear for that matter if your power level is currently 350. You have to slowly build your way up to increase your power level. The big thing for your power level is it determines which types of activities you can get into. If I go back to the destination screen again, looking here at any one of these planets, so if we go to Nessus here for instance, on Nessus I do have a story campaign mission here as well. You can see that there is a recommended power to do this. Now, you could go into it if you were below that recommended power, and depending on your skill level, you could beat it at a level pretty far below that. But if you got to a certain point where you try to get into that when you were, let's say, 100 power, you would not be able to do any damage against the enemies. So power level determines how much damage you inflict and how much you receive. And it also gets to the point where if the power level is too great between the activity you're trying to do, you won't be able to do any damage whatsoever. But you'll see here that all these different missions and adventures, they all have varying degrees of recommended power levels. Likewise, this goes all the way up to the most difficult content in the game, which is your raids. And if I go to the raid screen, you'll see here that each of these raids has a recommended power up to the highest level, which is recommended power 370. So to even get into these, the raids are more restrictive in terms of what you can do and how you can get into them. These are more restrictive, but the idea here is that the higher the power level, the more difficult the content is going to be. So your power level determines what you can get into, and it is the more difficult thing to rank up. My opinion, though, is if you just play the game normally, you should be able to increase your power level pretty gradually, especially if you're doing some of the things like your milestones. You can see here that these all reward powerful gear. Powerful gear is essentially telling you that, hey, the stuff you get from doing this activity is going to give you weapons and armor that are at or slightly above your current max light level, and that will in turn slowly bump you up to that max power level. There are some changes coming out into the Forsaken DLC and into Year 2 that'll make the grind a bit easier to get max power level, but we can get into that at a later video. This was mainly just to give new players an idea of the type of leveling system that is in Destiny 2, to give people a sense of how character level differs from your power level, and ultimately make this, that can be kind of confusing when you first get into the game, a bit more easy to digest. So if you found this helpful, if you're watching this when Forsaken comes out, let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate that. Likewise, if you could please hit that subscribe button, that would be even more appreciated. Most importantly though, thanks for watching, and we'll all catch up soon.